This is episode 30 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. There's only one game left to play in the NFL schedule in 2020. Unfortunately, neither the Bengals or the Browns are taking part in that. So today we're talking about cap space, free agents, and we're going to get into a little bit of draft talk. Um, there is the Super Bowl coming up, and we'll talk about that on predictions, but uh, not too much to talk about as far as the Super Bowl, as far as this podcast is considered. But anyway, finally, you hear me say it all the time, and I'm sure you don't need me to remind you, but the Steelers still suck.
Oh yeah, they suck indeed, and they're just getting suckier and suckier every day. Suck
We
Steelers.
we will go into a little bit more depth about the Steelers at the end of the podcast. We always do the state of the AFC North at the end, but suffice it to say, we've got some. You know those Comedy Central roasts?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we got a bit of a roast of our own coming up at the end here on the Steelers. Just I don't even know what they're doing anymore. I don't even. I'm not sure what they think they're doing. But whatever it is, it's ridiculous and stupid. But anyway, let's go
ridiculous and
ahead.
stupid.
You're right. Let's go ahead and
Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
why don't you tell me what you're drinking today, Thomas?
Today I am drinking a mixed cocktail, and this mixed cocktail is a Long Island iced tea. Yeah, that's right. Nowadays you could buy yourself a already pre-mixed cocktail at your local gas station. That's right. This one actually has 12% alcohol. Uh, I'm pretty sure the place that makes it is just called Mix. I don't really see any other for yeah, it's called Mixed Cocktail. The website's mixedcocktail.com. Pre-mixed cocktail, premium milk beverage with natural flavor and caramel color added to it. Okay, let's try this. 12% alcohol. You drink a couple of these, you get drunk. Oh, that is
Not good.
Oh, ooh. Actually, I don't know. The aftertaste is actually pretty good, actually.
Wow, that was a really negative reaction for something you ended up liking.
I mean, I think I had to already be drunk to already like this.
Well, honestly, that's kind of how I feel about liquor in general. Except whiskey. I like whiskey.
Shit
Um,
just got me. I had another beer. I should drink that instead.
well, speaking of beer, I got a beer this time. So last podcast, um, I went out and I got a Guinness Blonde, Baltimore Blonde, in honor of the Ravens choking in the playoffs. So I've got a beer in honor of the Pittsburgh Steelers signing Dwayne Haskins. It's called Hogarden. It is a German wheat beer. I just wanted to say Hogarden. It's got coriander and orange peel. Let's see if it's any good. That's much better than Dwayne Haskins' expectations in Pittsburgh.
Honestly,
It's not that good, but if anything, that should tell you about Dwayne Haskins' expectations in Pittsburgh.
this is much better than Dwayne Haskins' expectations in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the topics of the day. It being the off season, we're gonna these podcasts are going to be a little bit more experimental for a while, I think, as we kind of try to get an idea of how exactly we go. This is the first time we've done a podcast without actual games to talk about, like beforehand or afterhand. So
Yeah.
we're going to be trying out a couple of different things. This first episode, I think what we're just going to do is I'm going to give me and Thomas about 15 minutes each to talk about general topics with our teams. I got a couple questions for Thomas as far as the Browns are considered, but let's start with the Bengals. The Bengals, the big news since the last airing of this podcast is that the Cincinnati Bengals have announced that they will be coming out with new uniforms. They'll be announcing new uniforms in the spring of 2021, so the upcoming spring. So fairly soon, in a couple of months, we'll be getting new Bengals uniforms. And for me, the absolutely most important thing that makes me totally cool with the fact that we're getting new uniforms. Now, I like the Bengals uniforms, but I really, really like the Bengals helmets. I think they're by far and away the best helmets in the NFL, no contest. And so the fact that the helmets will not be changing is big for me. I'll take any uniform changes you want to throw at us. I don't care. Just keep the helmets the same, and I'm cool with that.
No, I seen they released them already. I didn't see the.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I seen a
There
lot of. I
been
seen
some mock-ups done though.
Yeah, but I say I seen a lot of like fan arts.
Yeah,
I seen some pretty cool ones. I seen the all black one. I think you're the one who posted that. I seen an all black one that looked really sweet. I was like, ooh, that look cool.
yeah.
I'm not sure if it's actually here it is right here. I'll show you on my screen if I can do it. Yeah. So it's like an all black. Like that's just cold. Like that would look real cold with something like that.
Well, they're not doing that because that's.
I know they're not doing that.
Also,
I know they're not doing that. But I just love. This part of my favorite thing about. Part of my favorite thing about when people come out with new uniforms, people always come up with these fan theories, and they come and people get real creative, and they come out with some real creative uniforms. That you kind of just let your mind wander.
Right. I have seen. I obviously, I've seen plenty of mock-ups for the new uniforms, and in particular, I've seen some that I mean, there are a lot out there, and there's some talented people coming up with some mock-ups. Now, a big thing about the one that you just showed us is it's got a different helmet, so that's definitely not happening. And second of all, I'm pretty sure that's a new uniform concept that I have seen much. That one's a little bit older. That one's been making the rounds for a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's see. I had not sure if I can find it right now, but oh wait, here we go. All right, so I'll share my screen here real quick and kind of give you an idea of what we've been looking at. But that right there, you've got you got kind of like this old style, but plus the new style, kind of like back in like from 97 to 2003, they kind of had these cool really strong black uniforms with like the leaping tiger logo. Now the logo is not changing. The B logo is staying, and I'm not as thrilled with that because I think that B logo is honestly kind of lazy and kind of lame, and I didn't really like it when we did it in 2003 either. I much prefer the leaping tiger logo. A lot of people prefer the leaping tiger logo, but that's not coming back. But a lot of people have been kind of talking about potentially coming back to like a more classic style. Me personally, I'm not really too worried about it. I want a really badass orange uniform. Like, I think like you see my Giovanni Bernard jersey up there. I think when we introduce the orange uniforms with the last uniform, like the big uniform overhaul that we did in 2003, when we didn't have orange uniforms before that, or maybe we did, but I don't think we did. If we did, they were so rarely ever used. But we've had those, orange fairly often used alternate uniforms since 2003, and that was one of my favorite parts of the new uniform redesign. Was the orange uniforms. So I'm really excited to see what they do with those alternate uniforms, with the orange being a main part of the Bengals' main uniform. And I think potentially a return to like that, really classic black style with like, the cool tiger stripes like they had in that first one here. I'll share the screen again. But like they had in that first one up here, that really reminds me of the style that they had kind of in the 90s. And you don't want to bring people thinking too much about the 90s back because obviously that was a terrible, terrible time. But that style was clean. And you would love to see it. You would absolutely love to see it. But as of right now, we don't have any information as far as what the Bengals are actually doing, other than the fact that the uniform is staying the same, or the helmet's staying the same, and the logo is staying the same. One of which I'm very in favor of, and the other which I'm not so much in favor of. I would like to see a more creative logo, but you know what? I'm not too worried about it. I just want to go win a Super Bowl.
No, I mean, I got Joe Burrow.
Well, that's I think that's also part of why they're doing the new uniforms, because this is kind of what we did back in 2003. We went out and drafted Carson Palmer, and then we came out with new uniforms in 2004. So I think they're trying to bring back some of the magic of when they turned the franchise around last time. Now,
the Browns went out and drafted Johnny Manziel, got new uniforms, and they hate those uniforms so much. But you have to have like a uniform for a certain amount of time. So instead of them just waiting until the contract is up for them to say, hey, we're going to get new uniforms. No, they said 2 years in advance. We're getting new uniforms, but y'all going to have to wait 2 years because we can't release them for 2 years.
Yeah,
you wait 2 years for new uniforms. We knew they'll come in.
I noticed which is weird because like the Miami Dolphins. Remember when they did their uniform redesign back in 2013, and everybody was like, "Oh, it looks like SeaWorld. Looks like corporate bullshit." Nobody, like a lot of Dolphins fans really didn't like the uniforms, and I believe this past year they started going back to the old style uniforms, and I think they recently announced that they're going to keep the old style uniforms, and Dolphins fans have been going crazy over that because they hate they hated the new age uniforms so much, and that's really kind of like the drawback of doing something like this is you potentially end up with people hating the new uniforms. But then again, I'll be honest with you, I don't think Bengals fans really universally love the current uniforms in the first place. Like, I mean, I like the uniforms. I was a fan of the redesign when it came out, but at the same time, like I definitely think that you could do something else and it wouldn't break my heart as long as you keep the same colors and as long as you keep the stripes. That's all I care about.
As long as you win, I don't care. That's how I feel about it.
Well, okay, yes, that's the most important part when it comes to the football team. I'm just saying if we're talking about potential uniform changes.
Yeah.
But so moving on from that, though, that was the big news that we had to talk about with the Bengals. I think other than that, we talked about everything, right? Like, we mentioned the Bengals hired Frank Pollock. We mentioned they hired Marion Barber. That was a running back. Marion. His name will come to me. The defensive line coach, the guy from the Dolphins. Marion Hobby. That's his name, Marion Hobby.
Yeah, you was really excited about him last week.
Yeah, no, I'm still excited about him. I just can't remember his last name for whatever reason. But yeah, I think we talked about all the coaching hires. So something about Troy Walters might not end up being the wide receiver coach after all, and then like we had a guy interview at running back, but nothing's really been announced there yet. So we'll wait on that stuff until a future episode to talk about that. But let's go ahead and get into the Bengals cap space real quick, because I really wanted to point this out. I was looking at, I believe it was a graphic from Over the Cap. They mentioned that the Bengals are projected to have the sixth most available cap space in 2021 out of all teams in the NFL. And that's after, after last year when we made that run, that unexpected, $100 million run on free agency that we made. everybody was thinking, oh, well, they made their big moves last year. They won't have enough money to this year. Well, that's entirely not true. Because, I mean, part of it is you got guys like, A.J. Green and Geno Atkins, especially almost definitely A.J. Green coming off the books and probably Geno Atkins coming off the books. You got Carlos Dunlap definitely coming off the books. You're freeing up a ton of cap space right there. My personal wish list, as far as guys I would like to see the Bengals go after in free agency, I'd love to see them go after Joe Thuney, the offensive guard from the New England Patriots. Or I'd be happy with Taylor Morton, too, the offensive tackle from where did he play? I know he was in Carolina for a while. Played somewhere else. Taylor Moton, by the way. Taylor Moton played. Oh, it was the Panthers. What am I thinking of then? He's only played with the Panthers. Okay, I'm stupid. Don't listen to me. Ignore me. But anyway, Taylor Moton from the Panthers, Joe Thuney from the Patriots, and you don't have to get both. I just like to see you get one. Most likely, the Bengals would go after Taylor Moton because they don't really seem to value offensive guards ever, as far as contract goes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll value them in the draft, but they really won't value them as far as contracts goes. Shaq Barrett, if he leaves Tampa Bay, I'd like to see the Bengals potentially go after him. DJ Hayden, I think, would be a good cornerback to bring in, especially if we don't re-sign William Jackson III, which I really think we need to. But I think the Bengals have a lot of potential in free agency this offseason.
It's funny. You mentioned William Jackson. I was actually never mind. We'll wait till we get to my part.
Little sneak peek there. But if you're saying what I think you're saying, we'll talk about that later, and I might fight you later. But anyway,
it's the Battle of Ohio.
Well, it was the Battle of Ohio. I mean, don't have enough battling on this podcast sometimes, so we'll battle on that.
Yeah. A little hug fest on this podcast. What the hell?
I will say though, as far as William Jackson III goes, he is not the most important free agent for the Bengals this offseason. I would love to see them bring both back. It's sounding like they might not bring both of their big free agents back. It might be just one or the other. The other guy is Carl Lawson, who is by far and away the only pass rush we have on this entire team. And also he's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. So it's like without him, we wouldn't have any defensive line to speak of. I mean, we'd have DJ Reader, who's a good run stopper, but he's not exactly like, Geno Atkins as far as being a pass rusher goes. So, I mean, we also got guys. We got Mackenzie Alexander. We got Brandon Allen. We got Mike Daniels. All guys I would love to have back. But the priority is, in my opinion, if you don't bring Carl Lawson back, you are going to have problems to deal with next year. I don't care how many Marion hobbies you bring in. I don't care. We got the resurrection of Saxonville and Cincinnati's coming with Marion Hobby. But if you don't have Carl Lawson, I don't know what the hell you think you're going to do.
Sure. I don't understand why you guys are entering the next stage of the rebuild. You guys are on the crest of making the playoffs next year. You guys probably only need a few pieces here and there, and y'all can easily make the playoffs next year. Why would you want to let blue chippers on defense go when you have a chance to make the playoffs next year? I just don't get that. I just don't get that. Like you got these people who've been through. They know what it's like to be a Bengal. They understand the city. They understand the pain of the fan base, and they understand the pulse of the city. Why would you let blue chippers go?
Well, part of it is the fact that we got a lot of people we need to pay, and we're spending way more money than we need to be spending at running back. I mean, you could re-sign both Carl Lawson and William Jackson III, and probably a couple other lesser guys, and you could probably go make at least maybe not a big splash in free agency, but you could bring, somebody worthwhile in. You could do that. I don't know if the Bengals are going to do that. So we'll see. I think it really depends on what the cap limit is, though, because like when I said the Bengals are projected to have the sixth most available cap space in 2021, we don't know exactly what that projection is going to be, right? And part of the reason we don't know is we don't know what the cap is going to be. On the lower end, if the cap is a more conservative number, I saw that $35 million was what the Bengals are looking at in free agency. But it could be as much as $50 million if less conservative estimates of what the cap might be next year come true. So we'll have to see exactly what happens. But if the Bengals have basically an extra $15 million, I think, if you're not re-signing Carl Lawson and William Jackson III, what the hell are you doing? But if it's that $35 million number, then it might be kind of difficult for them to actually pull that off.
Yeah.
I hope so, but
no, I get it. It's just it's one of the hardest. It's probably one of the hardest things about the NFL is when you're trying to is that like every situation is different because obviously it wasn't that long ago where the last regime of the Bengals was good. It's kind of like I being punished for being good in the mid-teens, right? So like in 2014, 2015, 2016, I had a good team. I had this great team. And 2017, and obviously y'all like, oh, okay, we got to resign these players. We got to make sure Bernard get his money. We got to make sure so-and-so get his money and everything. I choked on. Excuse me, guys. I am choking on a lettuce from Chipotle. This is not a promotion or a demotion of Chipotle. If anything, it's a promotion of Chipotle because this is really good stuff. And I'm enjoying the taste of the Chipotle while I'm choking on my Chipotle that's in the middle of my throat. Anyway, back to the topic. Me choking on lettuce. Basically, you got to be punished for being good 4 or 5 years ago, pretty much. It's because, you sign all these players that, help you all with a run. And, you have these big contracts. And then, obviously you want to take care of those people. But you didn't expect it to fall and crash the way it did, Y'all don't still pay. Y'all got out of Dalton's contract, right? So y'all got to worry about that, obviously. Man, Dalton had a big contract, man.
Dalton had Dalton had a lot of money on his contract, but it was a very team-friendly contract. When we cut him in the final year of his deal, we saved I want to say $30 million of that whole contract number. Wow. So his actual contract, what we actually spent on him, wasn't nearly as much as when that contract came out and everybody talked about that final number. It's that final number was also heavily incentive laced, and also if you stick around through the entirety of your contract, it was only guaranteed up to a certain amount. That was the big thing with Andy Dalton's contract, and a lot of Bengals fans didn't like it because of that price tag, but
people never read the whole thing.
It wasn't that big of a price tag.
It's kind of like thinking about the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers kind of do the same thing. The Cavaliers when they sign their players, what they do is they front end their contracts, so they get more money at the beginning of the contract than they do at the end of the contract. So then by the end of the contract, when somebody's later in the career, they have an easier chance of being traded.
I thought you had more to say about that.
No, I know. I'm done.
Yeah. No, well, that was pretty much why they did that with Dalton. They wanted to give him, a true, big time quarterback contract, without without really committing too many resources to him if he ends up not developing the way they wanted him to develop. And he did hit a lot of those development goals that they had for him, but he never really became the like franchise altering guy that you kind of always wanted him to be. And so that's why they ended up, not he ended up not making nearly as much money uh, as a lot of people thought he was going to. And and you're right. It's because they set it up structurally in a way that just it made it a lot easier on the team to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, No, go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't got nothing to say.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much all we need to say as far as the Bengals are concerned. Let's go ahead and move on to the Browns, who I don't remember what place they were at on that list, but the Browns cap space in 2021 is actually fairly similar to what the Bengals was. So the Bengals was I said $35 to $50 million, depending on what that actual cap space ends up being. For the Browns, the estimate was about $29 to $44 million. So, who would you say, Thomas, is your number one priority for the Browns? Well, first of all, let's talk. Who's your number one priority? Who you think needs to be re-signed? Like, who is going to be a free agent if the Browns don't act, and who do you think needs to be acted upon?
Oh no, David Njoku for sure. Resign David Njoku. Bring everybody back. Make sure everybody, at least bring everybody back on our offense. David Njoku became one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. I know you have Harrison Bryant. I know you have Alex Hooper. I know like paying more money on another tight end will not be smart. But I think you might be able to get David Njoku at a pretty decent price tag. That doesn't hurt the team too much. And let me make sure I have his contract in front of me correct. Let's see. But like by the way, he's only 24 years old. And I think that if you look at our tight end room, I think David Njoku have the potential to be probably the best out of all of them, or one of the best. Because I think Harrison Bryant got a lot of potential too. But I think we already seen the best of Alex Hooper. I think, Alex Hooper have hit his peak already. And he's a solid tight end. He's great. He's great for the locker room and everything. We got him on it says right here, we got him on club option. Do you mind explaining a club option? What does that exactly mean?
Essentially, a club option is the team signs a player for, like David Njoku was signed for a 4-year contract, right?
Yeah.
At the end of 2016, with a club option in the 5th year, if the Browns wanted that contract to be a 5-year contract, they could choose to extend him without having to basically sign a new contract with him. Now, granted, the price tag on that. So, like, his base salary every single year was like, in 2017 it was about $500,000. In 2018 it was nearly $1 million. 2019 it was 1.3. 2020 it was 1.7. But in exercising the 5th year of that contract, his base salary went all the way up to $6 million.
Yeah.
So basically, they had to pay out the ass for him in reference to what they have been paying.
But $6 million.
Yeah, he was drafted in 2017, so that's all that. Yeah. He's on his rookie contract. All they did was they exercised his 5th-year option.
I say you just pick up his option.
Yeah, they did pick up his option.
Oh, they did pick it up.
Yeah.
Oh. All right,
so they don't need to re-sign him this offseason. Personally, I was looking at the Browns unrestricted free agents. In my opinion, probably the most consequential person that I think the Browns need to re-sign is Olivier Vernon.
Definitely.
But maybe Kevin Johnson too, because without him, that cornerback room looks kind of sad.
See, the thing is about Kevin Johnson though is like, he's okay. He's okay, but like I think that you go out there and upgrade a cornerback. I have a cornerbacks in mind actually. Olivier Vernon, yes, because Olivier Vernon did tear his Achilles. and he is getting comfortable. I think we might be able to get him on a team-friendly deal. So yes, on Olivia Vernon because it's going to be hard for him to find money anywhere else anyway. Kevin Johnson maybe because I don't. I think if you let Kevin Johnson go, your cornerback room gets weaker. So actually, you know what? Yeah, I would resign Kevin Johnson because we got to figure out a way to make this defense elite. With that said, how do we make the Browns defense elite? Now our offense is set. I think our offense is fine. I think our offense is going to organically get better. You got Odell Beckham coming back next year. You have, like I said, David Njoku. Just bring everybody back. Make sure everybody's there. Everybody's going to be there on offense next year. Jarvis, Peoples Jones, Higgins, all them boys are going to be there next year. So Kareem Hunt, Chubb, all of them, they're all going to be there next year. The whole offensive line, the whole cast. Bring all of them back. With that said, that means you have a window, and that means that if you were to spend any money on free agency, the bulk of the money should go on the defense. You obviously got Myles Garrett in the front. You're going to have Leah Vernon come back at Sheldon Richardson. Maybe get another edge rusher. But if I want the Browns defense to take the next step forward, we need either a safety or a cornerback. You do have Delford coming back, who got hurt, who was a rookie, who's going to be a great pickup. You have Rodney Harris, so your safety room is going to be pretty solid. But I would go for this is going to sound crazy, but you know who is an unrestricted free agent who's coming out this year? Let me double check before I say this. Richard Sherman. Now Richard Sherman might resign with the there's a great chance that Richard Sherman is going to resign with the 49ers. I don't know the full parameters of that.
You know what I've actually heard as a rumor? Richard Sherman to the Jets.
Yeah, but here's why I wouldn't mind him coming to the Browns though. He's what, 32? He's going to be 32. So he's not terribly old. He's going to be 33. He's older, but he's not terribly old. But the reason why I would want him is because of that veteran experience. And he's somebody who's been there, who played for one of the best defenses in the league, somebody who helped build that culture in Seattle. And I think that if he comes to the Browns, I think that his attitude will fit in wellly with Jarvis and Odell and them. I think that, obviously, he'll come with the media. But I just think that as a locker room presence, I think that him in a locker room, and not only that, him and Joe Woods know each other. He was on the 49ers when Joe Woods was there. I think that Richard Sherman would be a great pickup for the Browns. I think Richard Sherman would be a great piece to add to that cornerback core. I think that he would help a lot of those young cornerbacks like Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams grow. Greedy Williams is somebody who hasn't played all year. Somebody's also come back next year. So then your defense will look dramatically different just by that. So I think if you're looking for something big, I think that Richard Sherman would be a great signing. As another cornerback, I was looking at the free agent cornerback that's coming out of Cincinnati, William Jackson. William Jackson. Yeah, William Jackson third. Yeah. That would probably be a bigger contract than Richard Sherman would probably be because of the fact that he probably a little bit younger than Sherman is. He's a lot younger than Sherman is. So William Jackson, somebody who is pretty much in his prime of his career, is probably going to be looking to play for a team that be able to win. Sorry about that. That was me. I don't mean like that. But he could play for the Bengals. Obviously, he could stay for the Bengals if he signed the Bengals in their young core. But if he doesn't, then division is a very popular thing for players to do. I think it'd be a great fit for Cleveland since he knows the division, he knows the quarterbacks in the division, and I think that he would just be a great corner to go alongside Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams. But I really think that the Browns' focus is offseason. Number one focus should be cornerback, and the number two focus either cornerback or safety. The number two focus should be edge, to help get pressure with Myles Garrett. And there might be a trade to be made for for the edge.
Okay,
A
listen.
little somebody in
listen,
Texas.
I think
Little
the
somebody in
Browns
Texas.
need to re-sign Kevin Johnson,
Okay.
Terrence Mitchell,
Okay.
and Tavier Thomas. All three of them. I think the Browns need to re-sign all three of them because I swear to God, if you guys take William Jackson, I will come up to Cleveland personally and fight you, and we'll record it and put it on YouTube, and that will not be okay. And you can't have Richard Sherman either. And you know why?
Why?
Because if you guys get Richard Sherman, then we will have competition. Like the battle,
but doesn't it
our
make a lot of
podcast.
sense though?
There will be no, because there will be another Battle of Ohio podcast, and we can't have that because Richard Sherman runs a Chris Collinsworth runs a podcast with Richard Sherman, and so if you got Richard Sherman as a member of the Cleveland Browns and Chris Collinsworth as a former member of the Cincinnati Bengals having a podcast together, then we're gonna have perhaps insurmountable competition, and I can't handle that.
Overall competition, does competition make you better?
Well, okay, but I mean, we have 23 subscribers right now. I don't think we need much competition.
I ain't afraid of NFL player. I bet you our 23 subscribers will beat their 1 million subscribers ass.
Probably have more than 1 million subscribers. But anyway.
I believe in y'all. You know I don't.
I got one more thing I want to ask about as far as the Browns. Now, this is something that I heard posited as an idea. I was listening to Hear That Podcast Growling. It's a podcast by The Athletic for the Bengals, and Paul Dehner Jr., one of the hosts, was talking about Matt Stafford as a being a potential trade target for a lot of NFL teams. And one team whose name he dropped as a potential suitor for Matt Stafford was the Cleveland Browns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I heard that.
So what do you think? Okay, so obviously we all know you love Baker Mayfield. So we don't have to – I'm not going to sit here and ask if you think that would be a good idea or not, because that's kind of unnecessary. But do you think that that's something the Browns would actually do?
No.
You don't? That's probably good. Probably good.
Not at all. I think, I mean, like, I don't trust national media. I don't mean to sound like, I don't mean to sound like conspiracy theorists or anything. But, one thing I realize is when you're a fan of a sports team in the Midwest that's not named Chicago, and you have you're a fan of a sports team down in the Midwest, or that's in the Midwest, that's not named Chicago, and you have a particularly good team and a good thing going, it's almost like you're looked at differently, and everything's being categorized differently, and it's harder to get respect. It's a lot harder to get respect in Cleveland than it is to get respect in New York. And you got these national, and I'm not saying that these national guys who are on the 4-letter network or CBS Sports or Fox Sports, I'm not saying they're not good at their job, because they're great at their job. I respect all those people. But one thing that, I realize is that they cater towards the coast. They just do. And there's nothing you can tell me to make me think otherwise, because that's what they do. They cater towards the coast. They always cater towards the coast. So when you are a great athlete who plays in a city like Milwaukee, who plays in a city like Cleveland, who plays in a city like Detroit, it takes a lot longer for you to get your respect. People go like, oh, because they don't have the national media that New York or LA have. Like, yeah, that's true. But then again, we live in a digital age, man. How much everything is videotaped? How much media does it take for you to sit here and say, hey, you know what? This Baker Mayfield guy is good. Hey, you know what? Colin Sexton is really good. He played for the Cleveland Cavaliers. No, because he played for Cleveland, we're just going to forget about him, even though we have video evidence of this person's skill being great. So we have analysts out here who want to be right more than who rather just stick to their egos and be right about something that they're obviously wrong about, and they're going out here saying, well, the Browns still are uncertain at quarterback. Well, we got this young quarterback who came in through 4 touchdowns in the first 2 playoff games. We had this young quarterback who looked really good against this Kansas City Chiefs defense that made Josh Allen look like he was from a horror story. We have this quarterback who in his first playoff game beat the Steelers on the road. We have this young quarterback who's breaking all kinds of records for this franchise that's never been broken before. We have this young quarterback who is leading the troops, who is building this young culture. And y'all want to break that up? Like, you know how stupid you sound? You are a national analyst. You know how stupid you sound? And I know you might think, oh yeah, well, Matthew Stafford could be a great backup for Baker Mayfield. No, man, you ain't saying for that. You ain't saying for that because you want a quarterback controversy because controversy sells. No, F that. F all of that, man. F all of that, man. F all of that. That's what. That's enough. That's another rant. My whole thing is that it will absolutely be stupid to bring in Matthew Stafford. I'll be stupid. You have Case Keenum. Case Keenum is fine. Case Keenum is going to be a great backup. He knows our defense. He knows the offense. He knows Kevin Stefanski. He's a voice in the locker room. He's part of the culture. If you were to bring anybody back, bring Gilbert Gober back, or bring like an XFL quarterback back, or bring a young quarterback. Here's what you do: bring a young quarterback you think that needs work that you can put on your bench and have him learn. Shoot, get Josh Rosen. If you want somebody else, get Josh. Like Josh Rosen would be perfect, man. Like I would love somebody like Josh Rosen. Like hey, Josh Rosen, you're gonna be quarterback number 3/4. You're struggling to stay in the league. Like somebody like that. Maybe not somebody like Josh Rosen because he's a little bit too high profile. Somebody a little bit lower profile. But just like somebody like who's that quarterback for Carolina right now who played in the XFL? I can't think of his name.
PJ Walker.
Yeah, somebody like PJ Walker. Like somebody, not necessarily him, but somebody like him, somebody who showed flashes in another light, who you want to put behind, who we want to play quarterback 3 in case something's catastrophic happened to Baker Mayfield, where you can say, hey, this kid got potential. Let's see what he got. Something like that. But don't bring in Matthew Stafford. Don't do that. Do not do that. That'll be stupid.
Here's the
That'll
thing.
be stupid.
If you're getting Matthew Stafford, that means you traded for him, and that means you probably
paying all that money
for him. Well, you're paying him a lot of money, but in addition to that, the amount of draft capital you're trading for him, you're not trading for a backup quarterback at that point. So, I mean, if any national analysts are trying to like backpedal out of the like Stafford to Cleveland thing and being like, well, he could be a backup quarterback. Why would you trade for him? Like, why would you trade for Matt Stafford for a backup quarterback? That don't make no sense.
It's just, like, why would you want to trade? And here go a question: how many playoff games have Matthew Stafford won? I'll wait.
They didn't have a college football playoff back then, did they?
I said, how many playoff games? Oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. All right. I get what you're saying.
He might have won one in high school.
Well, I'm just saying, you got this guy, Baker Mayfield, is the first Cleveland Browns quarterback to win a away playoff game since 1969. Now, I know technically, now you can say Baker Mayfield didn't win that game for us. Yeah, technically he did, but he took the 3 touchdowns in his first playoff game against a very good Steelers defense. Like, it's not like you don't have TJ Watt, the defensive player of the year, coming right at you. You're throwing dimes to freaking Jarvis Landry. Come on, man. I
think Baker deserves as much credit as anybody for that.
I'm not saying now. If the article was, I heard stuff about if Baker Mayfield might trade, if you would trade Baker Mayfield for Deshaun Watson. Now, the only reason why I wouldn't make that trade is because Baker Mayfield knows the system and he has chemistry with the players. But
the amount of capital you would have to give up.
Yeah, but I would think about that. I would think about that one. I would definitely think about that because I'm not going to get on this podcast and tell you that Baker Mayfield is better than Deshaun Watson.
Well, of course he's not. But at the same time, the amount of you basically have to cripple your franchise
exactly
to make that happen.
The whole thing is that we've proven the Browns are right there. They literally are right there. It's not like, literally, if you add a couple more pieces to that defense, you got Odell Beckham coming back. Y'all literally are right there. Why would you do anything to just F all of that up? You're literally right there. You could almost, this team is almost good enough to win a Super Bowl. I know people probably watching like, oh, what the hell did that mean? No, like literally you have an offseason. Offseasons are for your improvement, right? You will have your offense can hang with anybody. You have a very good offense. You have an offense that scored 40 points on some of the best defenses in the league. You scored 40 points on the Titans, the Ravens. You scored 40 points on Bengals, who, defense, you scored 40 points at Dallas. Like, this team could put up points. You have two of the best running backs in the league. You have a quarterback who knows how to work with all those players. Why? And what you need to win a championship on this team is you need a defense. That's your biggest glaring issue. Anybody, any single person who comes on here, who comes on any sports network, who goes on any sports radio and say that their problem is the quarterback, it's literally, and I mean this with the most negative connotation of this word, is an absolute hater. It's just a hater. You're just a hater at this point. You're literally just a hater. And I know people throw that word around so much, but no, you are literally a hater. And it'll be so stupid to get another quarterback right now. It'll be the stupidest thing in the world. It'll be the stupidest thing in the world. Like, I know y'all hate Baker Mayfield so much, and I know y'all hate the fact that y'all was wrong, but just admit y'all was wrong already. And just take the L and move the hell on. Build the defense. That's what we need to talk about. We got Browns fans. I listen to this every day. This is Kyle, by the way. This is a real thing, by the way. This is how deep it is. For y'all who are not from Cleveland. If y'all don't know, the whole entire year in Cleveland, there's been this great debate about whether Baker Mayfield was a quarterback or not. Now, I was one of those people who said, oh, yeah, Baker Mayfield's definitely a quarterback. Like, I don't know what y'all checking for. Like, I know this guy's a quarterback. People look at me like I'm crazy. Like, people, like, I'd be in the barbershop like, hey, that Baker Mayfield kid probably be a quarterback for the next 15 years. They might be like, what? Like, and then, like, my biggest worry about Baker Mayfield was, can he win a playoff game? He's shown me he can win a playoff game. So that's not, so all my fears about Baker Mayfield are out the window. The next question for Baker Mayfield should be, can he win Super Bowl? Is he like a Matthew Stafford? Is he like a Matt Ryan? Or is he more like, is he in that tier where he can win a Super Bowl, where he won't choke in the biggest game? But we haven't seen that yet. We haven't had those questions yet. So, we'll get to that. But right now, I literally, if you're in Cleveland, you turn on the radio, still to this day, people go on the radio and talk shit about Baker Mayfield, the guy that just won them the first playoff game in 20 years. I'm literally as old as the last playoff win of the Browns. I'm as old as it. And people be like, I don't know, man. I don't know if that Baker Mayfield guy's the guy, man. I don't know, man. I just don't know. Like, what are y'all, what is wrong with y'all people? What is literally wrong with y'all people?
Loving
y'all smoking. Can I have some of it?
Love the animated nature of Thomas ranting about something, as we always do on this podcast. But unfortunately, we do need to move on.
I had to get off my chest. Whoever wrote that article could suck my. Never mind.
We need to go ahead and talk about the state of the AFC North. So, let's start with the Ravens, because I don't have as much to talk about here. They're talking about, I guess the big news coming out of Baltimore is just, what are they going to do with extending Lamar Jackson? I mean, a lot of Ravens fans really would like to see them extend Lamar. And I mean, obviously it's like he's clearly your franchise quarterback. You got to extend the guy. But it's like, how much you really going to give him, because he plays a very punishing style of quarterback, and how long do you really want to commit to this guy who, has already shown that, he's struggling to perform when it really matters. Does great up until the spotlight's really on him. And with how potentially short his career could be just because of the position that the kind of way that he plays the position, how much more time do you really want to give him before you start thinking about what comes next?
So I don't want to defend Baker Mayfield in one breath and then come on in this podcast and bash Lamar Jackson. I'm not going to do that. Because contrary to popular belief, I actually like Lamar Jackson. I like him as a person. I like him as I think that he's a solid player. But in the playoffs this year, his passing stats in the playoffs, he had 70% completion percentage against the Titans, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 74 quarterback rating. And against the Bills, he had 162 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. With 58% completion percentage. It seems to me that you said on this podcast that it's not that Lamar Jackson can't make plays in the clutch, it's that he can't make big throws in the clutch. And I'm looking at I'm just looking at the schedule, just like a glimpse of the schedule. I'm just looking at some of the games that he played against some top tier opponents. Against the Bengals, he only had 1 touchdown, but he didn't have an interception. But against the Browns, he had 1 touchdown, didn't have an interception. He had a lot of rushing yards that game. Had a couple of rushing touchdowns. Against the Colts, he didn't have a touchdown. Against the Eagles, he only had 1 touchdown. Against the Steelers, he had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So, if this kid, he's his throwing ability, and I know he got the arm, but there's a lot more that goes on quarterback than just arm strength, And so, the question is can Lamar Jackson develop into a better thrower where he doesn't take as many hits? And that's what the big concern is. Because, we talked about this when they lost to the Bills, is that Lamar Jackson, one of the reasons why he lost to the Bills is because, you have a quarterback that becomes one-dimensional in the playoffs because Lamar Jackson hasn't been throwing the ball well in the playoffs. And it's very complex because, he's so electric. He's so unbeatable in a regular season. He does all the things you think he can't do in a regular season. He proves to everybody, look, I can throw, I can run, and all this other stuff. But when it gets to the playoff time, when the lights shine the brightest, it's just something just happens to this kid, man. And I know he beat the Titans. He got the monkey off the bat. He won his first playoff game against the Titans finally. And I know he's only a young quarterback. He's only 24 years old. He's younger than Baker Mayfield. Keep that in mind. He's younger than Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes. Dude's not old at all. It just astounds me that he cannot make big throws. I just remember that, like I said, that third down throw, that fourth down throw, that 4th and long throw that Baker Mayfield threw to Alex Hooper to keep the season alive against the Kansas City Chiefs. We ultimately lost that game, but throws like that, you don't see Lamar Jackson making those throws. Those are franchise quarterback throws. Aaron Rodgers make those throws. Tom Brady make those throws. Patrick Mahomes make those throws. Josh Allen made those throws. Joe Burrow's going to make those throws. Lamar Jackson hasn't made those throws. He made those runs. He's elusive. So I think that if you're the Ravens, you got to give Lamar Jackson the benefit of the doubt and re-sign him. But I just think that it's really hard. I think I don't know how long I don't know how long you're gonna resign him or how much money you're gonna give him. But you gotta ask some questions, man. There's a lot of questions around Lamar Jackson, and I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt. He deserves to get extended because he is the MVP of the league. You don't not resign the MVP, and you're going to make the playoffs along with Lamar Jackson's your quarterback. But Lamar, man, you got some work to do, man. You got some work to do, man. And I don't want to sound like I'm knocking you because I respect the hell out of you. I like that kid a lot. He's a very good kid, very nice, very humble. He's a good dude. But you got some work to do, man. You got some work to do.
The only other particularly interesting thing that happened with the Ravens is they waived Robert Griffin III, which I'm not entirely sure why they did that. Because he could be a free agent in 2 months anyway. So why waive him now?
I guess it's just the ultimate F you. You're trash.
But he's not. He did a really good job coming in for Lamar Jackson. I mean, my only thing I can think of is maybe they were trying to maybe if like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes needs a backup, maybe they might look at Robert Griffin and now he's available. I guess I don't know, but either way, I think that pretty much does it for Robert Griffin III in Baltimore. Because I mean he's definitely not coming back after being waived. When you got like Tyler Huntley's a pretty good third string quarterback. Or maybe second string quarterback. Trace McSorley performed pretty well, and both of them carry way lower cap hits than Robert Griffin. So I definitely don't think that it was just weird that they did it just now. But moving on, the Steelers in quarterback news signed Dwayne Haskins. So I will refer back to my beer of the episode, which is Hoegaarden. What are you doing, Pittsburgh? Like, what in the hell are you doing? Like, I mean, this is a team that has been mired in the in just constant drama, arrogance. It's a culture of prima donnas out there, and you're gonna bring in Dwayne Haskins. Like, I mean, he got kicked out of his last team by Ron Rivera because all he does is think about himself, and he's getting himself involved in like partying and not wearing a mask even though his coach has cancer. Like, what are you doing, Mike Tomlin? You trying to get yourself fired by a Steelers team, which by the way never fires head coaches. Like, I mean, they haven't fired a head coach since like the 40s or something, or the 50s or some shit. Like, and Mike Tomlin's 48, so I mean he ain't retiring anytime soon. So I don't know how the Steelers are going to handle this, but like Mike Tomlin's system is collapsing, and the Steelers are turning into a joke. So I mean, how much longer can Mike Tomlin really last? I mean, people are talking about, oh, Mike Tomlin, Coach of the Year, Mike Tomlin, like the last couple of years. Like, look at what he's had to work with, Coach of the Year. And it's like, I don't know about that. Like, the Steelers have plenty of talent, and his toxic culture that he's cultivated there has created this terrible, terrible, terrible situation in Pittsburgh. And this is a team that has always been extremely arrogant and full of assholes and whatever, but at least they backed it up with being good. Like, now they can't even really do that. Like, I mean, they made the playoffs, whoop-de-doo, but they kind of made an ass of themselves in the process.
The best team for the problem is that the Steelers are imploding because their ego to admit what they are. It's causing them to go deeper and deeper into a hole. So every single time they make one of these moves, every single time they avoid the inevitable rebuild that's coming for them, they go back 5 years. Now, this is a lesson in sports that sometimes it's not always. This is gonna sound really crazy at first, so stay with me. It's not always a good idea to stay competitive, because sometimes staying competitive makes you walk in circles, if that makes sense, right? So like think of it like this way. Think about like you're building Legos, right? And you're trying to build like this, like the tallest building you ever built. Well, or you're just building anything in Legos, right? Or you're building like a car with Legos, or you're building like bicycles or whatever. You just freestyle building. And like you realize that there's a flaw in your design, and you build a very nice structure, but the structure has reached its limits because of the way you built it. So what you got to do is you're going to have to destroy the whole thing and start from the beginning, or at least go down to a certain base and start from the beginning, so you can have I'm trying to think of a good example of this, man. I'm trying to think of like, all right, I mean, a lot of y'all probably haven't had actually, yeah. Okay, so this is probably a reference that nobody probably understands, because a lot of y'all probably don't have, probably never used this, but there's these things called Connect roller coasters, where you build your own roller coaster. It's really cool. And sometimes when you design your roller coaster, sometimes you're in design and you're just trying to make like your own really cool roller coaster, and then you realize that your roller coaster it won't work. It won't be completed. You can make a half-ass roller coaster, But who wants a half-ass roller coaster? What you gotta do? You gotta. Every single time you add to that half-ass roller coaster, you're wasting time of building your masterpiece. So just cop that, just get rid of it, start from the beginning, and redo it. You know how to do it. Y'all know how to build a football team. It's the same thing as the Steelers, man. The Steelers, man, they're so arrogant. Like they don't need a big rebuild, but like they're so arrogant about who they are that they don't want to admit that they're a team that needs to restock. Like they need to get rid of some of these old veterans who are pretty much poisoning these young players. Like, you got, we talked about last podcast how these receivers are so freaking arrogant and they're just going on spews and rants about stuff that they don't need to be going on. And y'all getting knocked out the first round of playoffs. You got a quarterback who can't throw past 20 yards. And y'all don't want to admit that your quarterback's old. Y'all don't want to admit that your receivers, that y'all have a bad culture and your players have bad attitudes. Since y'all want to admit this, I want to believe that the Steelers way is still the right way. Y'all want to bring this guy and Dwayne Haskins into the Steelers organization. And I don't think this is a good time to bring Dwayne Haskins in the Steelers organization. Not when you got somebody like Juju on your team still. Like Juju might be a free agent, you might let him go, but still, you still got Claypool, you still got the same culture that'll let Juju do what he did. Like, I bet you Jarvis Landry would not have let Juju do what he do. I bet you damn well Jarvis Landry would not let Juju dance on logo. Jarvis Landry yelled at Odell Beckham, who was a way bigger diva than Juju ever was. Man, the culture in Pittsburgh is broken. And they just gonna break it even more, man. They're just gonna break it even more. I'm just gonna let them break it. Go ahead, break your own culture, man.
Well, I will say Jarvis has a pretty long history with Odell. They go way back.
Yeah.
So that's part of that. But at the same time, like, that's part of building a culture is bringing in people who, have the correct kind of chemistry together and can actually like hold each other, to the correct kind of accountability in addition to building each other up. But
I mean, like, what do you think is going to happen? Do y'all really think in Pittsburgh that Ben Roethlisberger is going to mentor Dwayne Haskins? You think Ben Roethlisberger, the guy who owns and listens to his own offensive coordinator or his coach, is going to mentor Dwayne Haskins? You don't look at that kid, right?
The guy who has already repeatedly made it clear that he's not interested in being a mentor.
Yeah, who's that? Mason Rudolph is going to.
I'm not sure who's worse, honestly, Haskins or Rudolph.
I think Rudolph is a little better, actually.
Rudolph is certainly less talented than Haskins, but that doesn't really.
I honestly think that Rudolph has a chance to be a solid quarterback in the league. Like, I think Rudolph could be okay. I think Rudolph got.
You think so? I don't know about that. I thought Rudolph was a trash pick when they made it.
Because, like, I don't know, because, like, I mean, he looked that Week 17 game, man. He looked really good that Week 17 game, man. He looked really good. But then again, he had the best receiver. He had one of that receiver core in Pittsburgh is really good. The skill is there for the receivers. The attitude's not. But I mean, I just don't think that they're building a winning culture in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
I think they got a lot of players who are. I think the attitude in Pittsburgh should be play for yourself, not for nobody else. That's what
that's pretty much what it is. And bringing in Haskins doesn't help that at all because doesn't
help that at all. It's head scratching.
In fact, what you're probably doing is you're probably damning Dwayne Haskins to collapse within himself even further.
But why would y'all make that move though? Why would y'all do that? Like Jameis Winston could be had. Like if you don't do anything like that, go for Jameis. You know what I mean?
What I'm thinking is what they're doing is they're going to let Roethlisberger play until Roethlisberger decides to retire, I think, because Roethlisberger brought them 2 Super Bowls, and I think they don't care what he does at this point. Just you stay as long as you want, buddy. I think that's what their perspective on it is. And the problem is, as we know, he carries a huge cap hit for them, and so they're actually projected to be, as their roster currently is. And after certain projected moves and stuff, they're still projected to be $9 to $22 million under the cap next year. So what I'm thinking they're doing is they're bringing in a guy like Dwayne Haskins, who's like super, super duper crazy cheap and has some upside. Because you bring in Jameis Winston, you got to pay Jameis Winston. I mean, not like you would pay a starting quarterback, but that's one of that's going to be one of the most expensive backup quarterbacks in the NFL. But Dwayne Haskins, you can bring him in and have him just kind of like sit there. And if Ben Roethlisberger does decide to retire, then hey, you got Dwayne Haskins sitting there. And if not, then oh well, it's not like Dwayne Haskins is taking up much salary cap space in the first place. The problem is Dwayne Haskins is still in the locker room and still causes problems that way. But that's another discussion that we kind of already had. But I think that might be what they're doing. But it's ridiculous. It really is. But anyway, before we continue too far down this train, we're hitting up on about the hour mark on the podcast. So I think that's probably going to about do it for today. Don't forget to check out the predictions recap that we're going to post in a little bit for the. So anyway, guys, thank you for listening to this episode of the Battle of Ohio podcast. No predictions this week because there's no Super Bowl this week. Super Bowl's next week. There's no games to predict, but don't forget to check out the predictions recap of the conference championship. That's already been posted. Now that we're getting into the off season, we're going to try to do a couple things. We're going to try to do some live streams, maybe do some mock drafts on those live streams, some mock off seasons, stuff like that, and really just kind of play around with it, see what we like, see what you guys like. If you have any ideas, hit us up. You can reach me at Kyle Phelps 92 on Twitter and Facebook.com/thephelps. You can reach Thomas at T_star94 on Twitter and Instagram, and then he's don't forget to check out his YouTube page, Blowdown page.
Yep.
And other than that, that's it. Thanks for listening. Hoo day.
Go Browns.